That phrase, a domestic supply of infants, is incredibly insidious, especially coming from the mind of a woman who is deeply ensconced in white supremacist Christian national evangelical culture. And I've tried to record this a couple times, and each time I end on the screed of just kind of like finger pointing into the camera, and I'm not trying to do that. But people have to understand that the history of slavery in this country is inextricably linked to conversations about Roe v. Wade, to the cultural wars that I remember as a kid, referring to Black women as welfare queens or like the low-key implication of such or whatever, to this moment now. And I've seen a lot of back and forth here on TikTok about, why aren't Black women more on board about this or whatever. And honestly, for as long as we've been on this continent, we've been telling y'all that this whole system is a house of cards because it's ran through our bodies. What do I mean by that? In the 1800s, there was international and domestic pressure for the United States to abolish slavery. They were like, cool, we'll do it. We'll take a step towards it, and we'll stop the importation of kidnapped individuals and then deem them as slaves for the rest of their lives once they get to these shores. We'll stop that. But what it ultimately meant, whether or not there was already a system in place, the amplification after this law took hold is a level of cruelty and madness that is really unimaginable. But what that law ultimately did is create the sickening capitalistic logic that we're going to force these people to reproduce, to maintain and grow an in-house population of slaves. So when vegans clutch their pearls rightly about cows being forcibly impregnated, that happened on this continent. When people talk about the forced sterilization, and how horrifying that had been for all parties involved, was happening up until very recently. And to hear the likes of Justice Barrett use a phrase like domestic supply of infants feels so disrespectful and insidious, and just reminds me about how many times white women have consistently failed to be in solidarity with Black women.